Welcome to Resilient Runner. My name is Jacqueline Gordon, and this is my first ever podcast, and I'm so excited. This podcast is going to address anything that is athlete related, whether it's coming out of an injury, it's going through rehabilitation, it's focusing on the mindset that you need to be in as an athlete or through recovery. And then we will also address performance from a mental and physical standpoint. So really excited to kick off with today's topic, which is 5 mindset shifts to help you through recovery. So this is recovery from an injury. It might be from a workout as well, but this is more geared towards someone that's struggling through the rehabilitation of an injury. And I see this daily. I'm a physical therapist by trade. And so this is everything I see repeatedly, and I notice patterns of what help people get beyond their injury and heal faster. That I see what makes the journey go a little bit easier for people. Might I even say enjoyable for some people? So the first one that I want to talk about is get perspective. It's really easy when we're injured for our perspective to narrow in on our injury. We focus on our limitations, what we're not able to do, that we don't feel like we're an athlete right now. But truth be told, you are a lot more than just an athlete. Even if you're a professional athlete, you're so many things outside of your sport. And sometimes we fail to remember that when we're injured. And so there are 1,000 things we can focus on outside of the injury that we may have neglected during training or when we were in our peak performance, because life tends to get imbalanced, and this is a great time to recalibrate. So getting perspective can be talking to a doctor, getting your options. That will open your eyes to what you're capable of, what you should be doing. It will be talking to your loved ones, your friends, your mentors, and getting their perspective on it. I think that we're really good at being hard on ourselves, and it's easier for the people around us to kind of see things through rose-colored lenses, so they're able to turn this into a positive. And so that's a great way to get perspective. And the last one I would say is journaling. Journaling is something that I took up during an injury I had 2.5 years ago, and it is the perspective that we're giving ourselves. So now we're stepping back, we're writing down all our feelings, our thoughts about something, and it allows us to step out from the issue at hand. And sometimes we're able to see, well, I'm not really upset about this, or this isn't really as big of a deal that I'm making it to be. So journaling is instrumental in rehabilitation, and don't think that journaling has to be your standard writing in a book. Sometimes I just open the notes on my phone and I dictate everything that I'm thinking in that moment, and it helps me to get the perspective that I need, especially if I'm feeling emotional. And I promise you're going to feel emotional during an injury, so a really good time to do that. All right, the second one I want to talk about is give up the timeline. And I giggle when I say this because the first thing that people ask me at the end of an evaluation is, when do you think I'm going to get back to my sport? When do you think I'm going to be healed? And if you ask any medical professional, we are all going to give you a similar answer, and that is that it's dependent upon you and nature. Okay, so bones, tendons, ligaments, they all have their healing timeline. You can be the world's best rehabilitation student and do everything just right, and a bone is still going to take several months to fully heal. A strain is going to take several months to fully heal. And that's just nature. Okay, you can't make a plant grow by staring at it. It's going to take its time. So is healing. With that said, you do have a great deal of power within that rehabilitation time to make it a better experience, to make it the quickest healing time that is possible for that injury. And so the timeline is only going to be helpful to you in the sense that it's going to help you plan out what you need to accomplish during that rehabilitation time. It's going to allow you to plan your life. Now, if someone says it's going to take 3 months to heal, it might take 4. It might take 2.5. It doesn't really matter. What you want to get is a plan, a goal for yourself, and that timeline can help. But if you get stuck on that timeline, I promise you, you're going to feel more frustrated than you are empowered. So take the timeline with a grain of salt. You have to focus on what you can do during that time that's going to help you through the process itself, and not necessarily just getting back to that sport or to that activity that you're missing out on. So that's a big one. Give up the timeline, okay? The next one is, don't make your injury your entire story. I think this goes back to what I said in the beginning, in the sense that we're so focused on our injury that we start telling people about our injury. Oh, I injured my knee running, and now I have 3 months, and it goes on and on and on. And we tell the story 100 times to everybody, especially when we have to explain why we can't go for a run or why we can't go on that hike. It's okay to tell people that you're injured, but if you make it your only dialogue with people for months, not only are people going to start ignoring and avoiding you, you're going to mentally tell yourself, I'm injured, I'm weak, these are all the things that are wrong with me. And your brain does not know fact from fiction. So if you're repeatedly saying, oh, my injured right knee, my injured right knee, when you go through rehabilitation, all you're going to be thinking is, my injured right knee. And it's going to be very difficult to develop trust into that area of the body again. So, one, again, you're a person outside of your injury, so don't tell the story of your injury 1,000 times over. Really focus on other things. Now, with that said, when you hit a milestone, even a small milestone in rehabilitation, please do share that with people. If you're off crutches and now walking without any assisted devices, great, share that. People are going to be excited for you. You're going to be excited. You're going to see that progress and you're going to want to build on it. So I'm all for sharing your wins. Just don't get stuck in the same mindset of you're injured and just repeating that same story. It's not going to help you. And you're even going to start to identify with that injury, and that's going to make healing a lot harder, or at least trusting your body a lot harder as you even get closer to healed. You're still going to have that in the back of your mind. So that's a big one. The other one goes right into this. It's choose your words wisely. We all choose words that have emotion, that have meaning to us. And so when you say, my weak right leg, my hurt right knee, I'm limited, and you use this negative wording to describe your own body, again, your brain doesn't know that this is just you thinking out loud. It starts to believe it. So I say this because when I injured my knee 2.5 years ago, I took about 6 months before I could even jog again. And I was jogging. About 2 to 3 months later, I was running pretty long distances. I was back to half marathons on the weekends, half marathon distance on the weekends. And then I would do boxing on Friday, and I have a boxing coach. And when I would throw my cross, sorry, punching the mic, when I throw my cross, I was supposed to load my right leg to power through that punch. I would not load my right leg for anything. He kept saying, load that right leg, load that right leg. Even though I was putting thousands of steps on that right leg, it was strong, it was ready. My brain said, no, 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 I don't trust that right leg. We're going to load the left. And I started developing these patterns that weren't a normal athletic pattern. And this is something that happens to people without them even realizing, unless you have someone that's hounding you saying, hey, you're not trusting that limb. You're not trusting that shoulder. You're avoiding it. So again, what we tell ourselves really does sit in the back of our brain. So, telling yourself, oh, my injured right leg, why don't you change it to my affected right leg? It's not much better, but it's better. And then you can start to change it like, oh, I'm getting much stronger, telling yourself as you go. A month ago, this knee couldn't do that. It's so much stronger now. Now your brain's starting to hear that. You're starting to believe it, and it's true. You're not making up lies. You are telling yourself what you're feeling at that moment, but those words have emotion to them. They have power to them. And so using words that empower you through this recovery or rehabilitation journey are really going to make a difference. I use the example a lot. If you were out to dinner and the chef came out and they said, how do you like the food? If you said, oh, that chicken was edible, that's going to be really different than saying, oh, that chicken was delicious, right? It has an emotional meaning to it, and not all words are equal. So remember that when you're talking to yourself, when you have that internal dialogue, and it does take practice to hear what you're saying to yourself in internal dialogue. It doesn't come easy. We often go about it automatically. So it's something I really encourage my athletes to think about when they're going through rehabilitation. And when they start saying it during physical therapy, I try to correct them. No, like, this isn't your weak leg. This is just your leg that's in progress. This is your leg that's going to have a comeback. It sounds silly, but it really does have a profound impact on how you think about things. So take it with what you will. I do think that words matter immensely, especially the ones we say to ourselves, and often the ones we say to other people about ourselves. So choose your words wisely. And the last one, and I think this is a pitfall that we all fall into, but comparison is the thief of joy. And it's really easy when you're recovering from an injury to see other people that are further along than you are, or they've progressed quicker than you have, but you don't know the ins and outs of their injury, and your injury and their injury will never be the same. So if you tear your ACL and you see someone doing box jumps, but you're still on tiny little step-ups, you're going to feel like, why am I not as good as them? Well, there's 1,000 variables to why you are not at their level, or they could be progressing far too quickly and setting themselves up for re-injury. You never know these things. It's really easy to compare ourselves up, meaning we're looking at the people above us saying, oh my God, why am I not there? Why are they so much better than me? But we rarely go, oh, look at that person. Like, I'm further along than they are. And I'm not saying that comparison is good or bad either way, because some people say it's motivating to set a benchmark and to say, okay, I want to get to where they're at. I agree that it can be motivating to an extent. I think long term, it's more frustrating than it is helpful. So I would be careful to compare yourself to anybody but yourself. If you are better than you were yesterday, you're making forward momentum, and that's going to be worth way more than doing a box jump earlier than the person next to you at physical therapy. So really bring it into yourself, focus on yourself, because if you start looking around, you're only going to get frustrated, and you never know the whole story, you never get the whole picture, and you're two unique human beings. So even then, you're a snowflake. Your tissues heal differently than their tissues heal. You have a different diet, different sleep schedule. So all these things play a factor. So as easy as it is to compare ourselves to others, try to refrain from doing that and just compare yourself to the person you were yesterday, and hopefully you are a little bit better. So with that concluded, the 5 things, just to recap: get perspective, give up on the timeline, don't make it your whole story, choose your words wisely, and comparison is the thief of joy. So with that, I hope you found today interesting. If you have any feedback or comments, I would love to hear them. Or if you have topics you want to hear from in the future, please feel free to message me. And I look forward to having you in the next one. Goodbye.